Did it again. They did it again, as usual. It's just a thing. Doing good music together. Well, welcome to the season of Advent, but really, it's welcome to the season of light. Welcome to the season of light. We there's evidence, archaeological, anthropological evidence, that the winter solstice has been celebrated for at least 10,200 years, or since 10,200 BCE, before the Common Era. That's how long humanity has recognized the quality of the moment of the return of the light. Now, Advent got put on the calendar in the year 380, so about 3 centuries after Christ walked on this earth. But we don't celebrate Advent in the traditional way. Okay, we celebrate Advent as a more metaphysical experience. There's a reason that the winter solstice was chosen to represent the birthday of a very great teacher that we admire, the teacher who taught us that we were also from the light. Because the winter solstice has a mystical quality to it because of the return of the light. And there's a feeling of expectancy that we have every year at this time. Now, I was kind of analyzing this because I always thought, well, the expectancy it's from that waking up Christmas morning and getting to open up the presents. And so it was all this excitement. But, I looked back over the years and I was looking at a time in my life when I was a teenager and my mom married my stepdad. And all of a sudden we went from celebrating Christmas on Christmas Day to Christmas Eve. We became one of those families that celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. And I thought that was kind of weird. But what I noticed is that after exchanging presents, after having the nice meal with the family, after everybody went home, I still had that feeling of expectancy in me. And my sister even noticed it. And we would sit up late on Christmas Eve, knowing there were not, because she was, knowing it was not going to be the same on Christmas Day morning, right? And I still had that sense of expectancy. Now, what we're doing is we're celebrating the return of the light to the world, but that feeling of expectancy, it's not about the presents and it's not about the things that happen on Christmas Day. It's our own light that we are sensing. And I really believe there's something about this time of year, our own light naturally wants to expand because there's a reason that we feel the way we feel around this time of year. So here at Unity of Yucaipa, we celebrate Advent differently because we're mystical revolutionaries. We're a bunch of rebel angels, and so we do things a little differently. We're celebrating how the light is reborn within us every year at this time, and that those divine qualities are being called forth through us in a greater force, in this greater power coming through us this time of year. And those qualities are hope and faith, peace, love, and joy. These are the qualities that we call forth when we are aligned with our inner being, when we are embodying the Christ consciousness, that consciousness that's a higher way of thinking and a higher way of being, so that we are aligned with the divine will of the universe. We align with universal consciousness so that we're calling in that harmony and order into our life, and we're calling in hope, faith, peace, and love. We're embodying that. And so our theme this year, for this time of the year, is igniting hope in the world. Igniting hope in the world. They call this the season of giving, but it's not just about the presents, it's about the gifts we were given, that we came here with, that we share, that we can share. Peace, hope, joy, love, faith. That is what we are here to share. But that may not always be what we are sharing. Sometimes we may share fear and blame and complaining. Sometimes we may be the harbinger of doom and gloom. Sometimes that's, we're calling forth lack and limitation, and we're sharing that with those around us. So we have the season of Advent, the countdown to the return of the light, and it's really kind of a season of self-examination, right? We go into the darkness of the year, and it's kind of a natural feeling, or we have a natural urge to do a little more self-examination, to have a little more quiet in our lives. But now we are a post-pandemic society. And from 2019 and prior to that, I can remember thinking around this time of year, well, I'd like to be a little more generous. I'd like to be a little more compassionate. I'd like to remember all this stuff a little more this time of year. And that's what I would think. But in 2020 and 2021, we actually kind of went into a holding pattern. And that holding pattern looked like, well, we just have to wait and see. Let's just hope things turn out for the best, and let's hope that things go back to normal, that they go back to how they were before. Then we can all be happy again. But the year 2022, it was not about being in a holding pattern anymore. And collectively, the Unity family, we had to make the decision to sell off our old property. We had to make the decision to let go of an old way of life, because the way we did things prior to 2019, it wasn't working anymore. Even though we made it back into our building in 2021, and we were there for the first half of 2022, it never went back to the way it was. And I have talked to so many people where this is happening individually too in our lives. It's like finally, I had to, it didn't work out in my life anymore, and I had to let that go. I had to forgive myself for not being able to keep my business going, or I wasn't able to go back and take my classes, or I wasn't able to do this anymore. And now many of us are being faced with leaving something behind that we didn't, in 2019, we didn't think we would be leaving that behind. And so in 2022, what we're doing is now it is our charge to ignite hope. We can't become hopeless. We can't go into waiting patterns anymore, right? And if we had been hopeless when we decided to sell that building, everything would have tanked. Instead, we all got excited. It's like, okay, sure, all right, well, we have to accept that we have to sell the building, but guess what? This is opening the way for something greater. This is opening the way for new opportunities. There's something bigger that's going to happen, and we may not know what that looks like, but there's something, somehow the way is being prepared for us right now. And I know if it's happening in our Unity community, it's also happening individually. The way is being made open right now. And that way is total unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. But the way is being made clear for us. So we are here to practice igniting hope. That's our charge. Getting good at igniting hope, because hope is actually the catalyst for new opportunities in our life. Hope is the catalyst for growth and expansion and calling forth greater good. Hope is the catalyst for those brilliant ideas and our heart's desire. It's where they get momentum. Hope helps us to build momentum. But there are two kinds of hope. There's hope, as Charles Fillmore talks about hope. He talks about hope, but he says hope goes with faith. And then hope is the expectation of good in our future. But that's it. That's what he says. Hope is the expectation of good in our future. Well, what is that good? Well, it could be infinite. There's so many possibilities available to us, whatever we can think and conceive of, right? Whatever we can imagine, whatever we can get behind, whatever we can get excited about is included in that statement. So hope is the expectation of the future, good in the future, but it's not specific. What he says is that hope is subject to time. Hope is subject to time. And so hope can be, and I'll use my favorite metaphor, the garden, because it works for everything. It can be your literal garden, or it can be your heart's desire. But we get excited about something and we plant the seed. And whatever it is we plant the seed for, because hope is governed by time, we have to plant the seed, and then we have to give the seed the time that it needs. But faith is not subject to time. Faith is the knowledge that it's happening now. And so we recognize our good is happening now. So hope is we get excited, we plant the seed. Faith is, well, I planted the seed, and it's now growing in the substance of divine creative substance. It's already growing. When you plant your garden, you don't plant those seeds and then stand there and stare and say, oh, this didn't work. There's nothing coming up. Right? You know that the atoms and the molecules are transforming underneath the soil. It's already happening. Okay, so hope is subject to time. We plant the seed. Faith, we recognize our good is already happening now. So now we get excited through faith, and we know to take a faith-based action. So we get excited by hope, we plant the seed, then we take a faith-based action that nourishes the seed and empowers the seed and energizes it. Okay, and then we get excited again, and our expectation of good is like right there. And so we take another faith-based action. So hope and faith are in a continuum together. Okay, I like to picture the infinity sign. Okay, you hope, you get excited, you have faith, you take action, and your dream gets bigger. And you hope, and you get excited, and you have faith, and you take action. Okay, and it keeps happening. Until finally, bam, it's just right there in your life. So this is how we're expanding our territory. This is actually how we're expanding our territory. But we can also have hope without faith. Hope without faith. This looks like us if we sit around and we wish for a condition out there to change so we can be happy. Okay, if this thing would just change, or if that thing would just go away, then I could be happy. Hope without faith, we're going to feel powerless to take any action. We're going to feel powerless to make changes, and that's why we're looking to the conditions in our life to change. We just keep hoping that something out there will fix all the problems. And I can't even tell you, like during the pandemic years, like I was like, when's somebody going to fix this? I could actually think that. When's somebody just going to fix this and straighten it all out, right? Okay, but hope without faith, we just are not going to feel empowered to do anything about our life. If we're not feeling empowered, if we have hope without faith, what that could sound like is, well, cold and flu season is upon us. I sure hope I don't get sick, but I'll just have to wait and see. I'm just kind of ride this season out, I guess, right? Or like something I'm personally going back and forth with, you know, my husband and I want to buy a house. I sure hope the price of houses comes down. Boy, I sure hope that the economy gets balanced out. I sure hope, but then I don't have faith, do I? This is wishful thinking. This is just wishful thinking. Why not? Just like, man, I sure hope the economy would go back to 1986. Like, that's a great wish. If that came true, like we'd just have so much money we wouldn't be able to handle it. Okay, but that's wishful thinking. If I'm just in wishful thinking trying to get a house, it's not going to happen, right? To have hope and faith, what that would look like is, well, I really want to buy a house, and sure, they're really expensive right now, but you know, maybe I could research and see if there's some kind of programs, or maybe I know a realtor who knows something, or maybe I'll just remember, like what Linda says, it only takes one, and it could be easy. Right? Maybe somebody just wants to sell their house, or we just never know. See, that's the thing, we never know. Hope and faith together, they encompass the unknown for us, because that's when we get what we didn't expect. That's where we can get something that we didn't know how we would make it happen. Okay? So hope without faith means we can have contradictory beliefs. I believe in an abundant universe. I believe that God is all things, and that means me. But things just don't work out for me like they work out for other people. I believe in an abundant universe, but it's always really hard for me. But that guy over there, it's really easy for him. I believe that God is all things, and that means me, but I have a lot of worries. You know, why doesn't she worry about stuff all the time? Why does like everything happen so easily for her? So we can have contradictory beliefs. So we have hope without faith that is just wishful thinking, where we end up being at the mercy of the conditions in our life. Or we have hope that leads to hopefulness and becomes a catalyst. Our psyche actually needs hope because it's fuel for our mental engine. Hopelessness is the root of many a mental illness and addiction. Hopefulness is at the root of our ability to thrive, even in physical conditions we can't overcome. So with hopefulness, we still thrive. With hopefulness, we're still creators in our life. With hopefulness, we're still calling forth greater good. With hopefulness, we're still being guided to expand our territory for the good of ourselves and other people. So what is it that makes the difference between hopefulness or hopelessness? And what makes the difference is faith, right? This is why Charles Fillmore said, hope and faith are the continuum. But to have faith, that means we have to surrender. To have faith, to have hope and faith together, we have to let go of things. So we need to be able to let go of the idea that that thing out there has to change so I can be happy. We need to be able to surrender this idea that we have to know how everything is going to pan out and that we have to have a guarantee before we take the action. Because if we already know all that stuff, we're in our comfort zone. We don't need faith to make that happen, but we're in our comfort zone if we know everything already. Okay, so we need to surrender. We need to surrender that idea. And so I want to share the difference between, we're going to talk about expectancy versus expectation. This is beautiful. Expectancy is openness without demand, looking toward the future and offering a joyous energy to the present. There is a lot of discussion about having expectations in the new age, in the new thought, in spiritual circles, in personal growth circles. There's a lot of back and forth on expectations. But I want to tell you, I found this on expectancy versus expectation. So expectancy, we're open to the unknown, right? We're open to the unknown. We can get excited about something and we can stay excited about our heart's desire because we're not worrying about how we're going to make it happen. And we are in cooperation with life, with the universe, because when you walk in faith, you're being divinely guided. We receive signs, we see the wonders, we have synchronicities, and we have to act on those so we can move forward, right? So we have to be in cooperation with life and with the universe. What happens then is that we are preparing. We're preparing for our greater good, but we're not demanding that it be a certain way. We're just preparing for it. And I like the metaphor for childbirth because you prepare for childbirth, but you just never really know what's going to happen in that moment when that baby comes, okay? But see, when we are creating an experience in our life and we are in faith and we are cooperating with life and we are excited and we are enthusiastic, what we call forth feels like expansion, right? And this is like childbirth. There is an expansion into our lives. There's the expansion, of course, of the literal expansion of the womb giving way for this new life. And then there's this new life appearing in your life as a physical manifestation that you can now hold and care for. Expectation is we are closed to the unknown. Right? My expectation is I will get my new house and it'll look just like this, this, and this. And this is how I'm going to get it. Right? See, expectation. We have a what and a how. We have to know it all. We have an impatient demand. It's like, I need it now. It's got to happen now. If I don't just get my new house this month, I'm just going to be so upset. And life is making me very unhappy if I don't get my new house right away. And we're planning and we're building. This, in expectation, it almost feels like to me, like if you buy a box and it has a model airplane in it, you get a set of instructions and you just follow the instruction. You've got all the pieces and you just put everything together. You've built something, but you didn't create it. You built it, and it can be fun. But that's not how we do life. That's not how we are creators in our life. We're not walking in faith if we have the entire set of instructions right there and all the pieces and all the guarantees, and that's not creation. That's just building something new. Okay, so let's see. There we go. Oh, don't go there yet. The difference in expectation and expectancy is walking in faith. Now, in Charles Fillmore, he said that hope is the expectation of our good in the future. He was opening the way for something bigger than what we can imagine. Okay, we just have no idea. Our good is so infinite, and it will progress through our entire lifetime. There's always a new kind of good that we can be calling into our life. And so the difference between expectancy and expectation is walking in faith and being willing to let go of how we decide it needs to all come together. Because we don't really know. And if we think we know and we're holding out for how we want it to go, we may end up really missing something very exciting. They came together in a way we never would have imagined before. So you can have the expectation of greater good in your life, but also hold that idea of expectancy, expecting good in your future, but living in this moment right now with joy. That's something else about expectation. If we are in an urgent demand, impatient demand, we're not pouring much joy into our life right now, are we? We're not. And so here is our call to action for this week. This is about igniting hope. So we'll start with our affirmation. Hope, want to say it with me? Hope fuels my imagination, and faith opens the way. Faith opens the way. You probably heard that saying, things that are impossible to mankind, I'll say humankind, things that are impossible to humankind are possible to God, right? But what this is life will feel impossible to us. Our heart's desire will feel impossible to us when we are only focused on what the conditions in our life can give us. Is that landing? When we are thinking like things have to go together the way we want them to, then what if they don't? Then you don't get what you want. Then you don't get that experience. So things will feel impossible. It can feel really impossible right now thinking about a new building. It can feel impossible thinking about buying a piece of land. It can feel impossible thinking about healing something in your body. It can feel impossible thinking about losing weight or changing a belief system. It can feel impossible when you think about starting a new business or a new exciting adventure. It can feel impossible. And things can be very impossible when we come from our own limited thinking, because we'll start feeling disempowered. Like we'll feel like we can't make it happen. Everything becomes possible with God because everything becomes possible once we align with our inner being, once we align with the divine within us. But to align with the divine within us, we have to surrender those behaviors that are keeping us from igniting hope. And those behaviors, they could just look like blaming and complaining. It could look like going into victim consciousness. Oh, nothing ever works out for me. Right? Those actually can be addictions, because our brain gets wired for that, and that becomes a go-to response to us. So of course it feels hard to surrender that. So I do have a little game to offer up for you guys this week, and I hope that you will play this game because it helps us get out of that thinking. And it's called the Wouldn't It Be Nice game. Wouldn't it be nice? Now you can start with, so example in my own life, wouldn't it be nice if an amazing property just came up for sale and we were the only ones that saw it and they just loved us so much they just wanted to give us that house, right? That's a little silly. But you can start with the conditions in your life. Wouldn't it be nice if I was sleeping a little better? Wouldn't it be nice if I had a place to go sit outside in the morning and get some sunshine on my head? Wouldn't it be nice if I had a really big jungle in my backyard? And wouldn't it be nice if I had 85 guitars to hang on the wall? And not yet. Okay, and so you can just look at kind of some of the conditions in your life. But then get fantastical get fantastical, because we want to turn this into a game, and we want the ego part of us, our little me, to clearly understand that this is a game. So it does not need to get involved in giving us a bunch of reasons, well, we'll never make anything happen, okay? It's going to know it's a game, and it's just going to sit there and laugh at us, okay, and not interfere. Wouldn't it be nice if I could fly the Millennium Falcon on my bucket list and do the Kessler run in under 4 parsecs? That would be me. Like, wouldn't that be nice if I could do that? Okay, wouldn't it be nice if I had this property and I could adopt or take in rescue donkeys that don't have a home? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be amazing if I just sat down and wrote a book? Like, wouldn't it be amazing if like a bunch of people wanted to buy it? Get a little fantastical. Okay, but then get yourself solution oriented. Right? Wouldn't it be nice if I sat and I gave myself time to get some clarity on this issue? And wouldn't it be nice if, like, I got a hit? Like, I got a little download of the next thing I should do? And wouldn't it be nice if, even though that felt a little scary, maybe I go talk to that person that I got inspired to talk to? Wouldn't it be nice if I talked to them? And wouldn't it be really nice if they had some good information for me and then I decided to act on it? Wouldn't it be nice if I had the courage to act on that thing that was it's kind of outside of my comfort zone and feels kind of weird and I don't really know where it's taking me, but wouldn't it be nice if I went ahead and acted on that anyway? And wouldn't that be nice if that led to the next best thing that I could do? This starts changing our brain. This starts changing how we're thinking. If we are feeling hopeless, and this is a game I have played when I've started spiraling. Okay, when I've started thinking, the universe hates me. This is a game I play. And get creative. See what you can come up with. Okay? Who's willing to try this week? Okay, raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, then here's the other one. This is from 1 Corinthians, but it's keep alert, stand firm in your faith, be courageous, be strong. We have to keep alert. It is so easy to get into a conversation with somebody who's going down this spiral about how horrible everything is in our world, and we can start feeling the weight of that. Like, have you ever felt the weight of somebody else's negativity and the pressure, and all of a sudden you feel like, oh my gosh, this is a horrible place to live? We are responsible for keeping ourselves in a state where we can ignite hope. Now, I'm not saying you have to make somebody else be hopeful in their lives. That's really up to them. But see, we have to take responsibility for our own way of thinking. We have to take responsibility for managing our thoughts. And so that might look like when somebody's going on and on about the price of milk. God is all things, and that means me, and that means my ideas and what I'm inspired to do. And when I do my affirmative prayer, I align more deeply with the infinite within. Oh, and that power that creates worlds, it is at work within me too. It's our responsibility to do that. It's our responsibility, if we can't get out of that negative hole, to call somebody who can help us. To call somebody, and we don't want to dump our stuff on them, but we want to call and say, I'm just really in a negative mood right now. Give me a kick in the booty. I would love that. Okay, that's also our responsibility. So keep alert. Then stand firm in our faith. Stand firm in our faith. It's okay to not know how we're going to navigate the storm of our life. It's okay to not know all things. We just remember there's that within us that knows what to do, how to do it, and it compels us to act on what it knows. Our job is to listen. Our job is to listen to it and then act on what we're guided to do. Act on the next best thing. So we keep alert, we stand firm in our faith, and then we be courageous. It takes a lot of courage to take action based on faith, right? That divine guidance. It takes a lot of courage to do that, because faith-based action, our inner being is telling us to do something that's out of our comfort zone. Our inner being is telling us to take this step, even if it doesn't make any sense and we don't know what's going to follow. Our inner being is telling us to do something that has no guarantee. Right? If this stuff was easy, we wouldn't need courage because we're not in faith, because we're in our comfort zone. We already know everything. Okay, so we have to be courageous because we're going to be doing something new. We're expanding our territory. We're expanding our territory, and that means doing different things. Different things. So keep alert, stand firm in faith, be courageous, be strong. This is about fortitude and sticking to it and doing it over and over again. You know, when we're creating something new in our lives, we're giving up something that's keeping us from having the thing that we want. We're giving up a behavior, or we're giving up the addiction. We're giving up the shopping addiction, or the scrolling on social media addiction, right? We're giving up the addiction to going into our drama and sharing our drama with everybody. We're giving up something to get our heart's desire into our life, to make room for our heart's desire. So we have hope and faith. We ignite. We fuel our mental engine. Hope and faith together means we're thriving even if stuff out there is kind of weird and wonky. We're thriving even if maybe we're not feeling good right this minute. We're thriving even though we don't know maybe when we'll get our house, or we don't know how our business is going to take off, or we don't know if we'll be able to manage this thing. We'll be thriving anyway, because each step forward is a little bit of an expansion right there into our territory, calling forth a little bit more good, a little bit more guidance. Hope and faith, this is the catalyst for happy outcomes. Igniting hope opens the way, and that is the way that we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all of this. You are the hands and the heart and the feet of God in this world, and everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.